So with our handsome Mr. T, I want to keep working a little bit more with this place behavior. I just put out the cot and he's like, I got it. So if you're finding too at home, guys, a lot of puppies have a really hard time generalizing skills. So even adult dogs too. So remember how long it might have taken us to learn a concept and to feel like we really understand it and have mastered it. Puppies, again, are trying to learn new things that are very much so out of their depth culturally, but also at times like physically and mentally. So to create value in all of these weird things that we'd like our puppies to do, remember that we want to make it seem fun or reinforcing. So if you were working a 40-hour work week and maybe you did some overtime and your boss is like, wow, great job, high five, you'd be like, where's the money? So remember, no puppy walks up to another puppy and says, would you like to do a downstay for fun? How about some loose leash walking? Maybe some recalls. For them, they'd be like, let's frolic in the woods and go roll in a dead fish. So for puppies to build value in the weirdness that is our world that they've been plucked from Dogville and plopped into, we have to make sure that we're also enriching their lives with dog-centric outlets. So a lot of dog behavioral problems actually stem from the lack of an out for most dogs to perform normal dog behavior. Also, what we have deemed normal dog behavior, we only pick and choose the ones that we like sometimes, even though growling or giving warnings is a very normal part of communication. So I'm not saying we want our dog to go eat the UPS driver or go assault your toddler or whatever it might be. But remember that if we don't understand that our dogs are just simply trying to communicate in the only way they can, and we just view behavior as good or bad, we're more than likely suppressing natural dog responses to anxiety, frustration, or fear. And then we might create a dog that gives no warning. So we do not want to scold behavior. We want to think, why in this situation is it occurring? How can I set up my puppy for greater success? What could I do differently to make my dog feel safer and therefore not as likely to respond in a behavior or in a manner I don't really want? So I'm again pairing some lovely bedtime with a little chew item. So let's say, for example, he's just working the beginning stages of these stays. I'm intermittently going and feeding him throughout my blabbing. So we're building up a lot of great value in being stationary. So I know for a lot of the babes, the reason I tend to work this with all of them, and not always do I film every time they're doing, place behaviors. My words are not happening today. But the main goal is that throughout their sessions while they're here, they are working a little bit of everything, and we do rotate. So if let's say one of them is not feeling a certain skill, I rotate even throughout training, be it on the video or not, and they're getting to build up a skill that might be a better option at that moment. So just like with us, if let's say we were not doing so well with one skill, we can sometimes, at least to boost our comfort and confidence, move on to another skill that might be easier for us and feel like we can rock it. So the same thing for puppies is if there are certain skills that you're finding are not going quite as beautiful, maybe lower the criteria or go back to a skill that your puppy was doing really nice with and start there. This is really pretty. So again, we're just building up a little bit of distractions. He says, I am winded. I know, I think all the babies are now napping again. Because like throughout their stay, they do playtime. The first hour tends to be them doing some playtime and potty breaks outside as well. And we go in and out of the indoor environment and outside as well in the yard. And then we start the filming, typically around I try around 10:15, 10:30. And then we rotate through puppies and potty breaks and all that fun. So they do get little rest periods where they're napping in the back room where there's a few different suites and different sections. So even though they're kind of together, they're not wrestling. Yes. Nice. And we do tend to try to end the day with more play if they're feeling up for it. It says chewing is so hard with these little baby crumbs. So I'm just going to add a little bit of distractions, touching some items. Gorgeous. What a brilliant boy. Too, I know you guys mentioned that he does have certain zones and that you, I think, bought like a puppy pen or something for him. I would always highly recommend, there are some stellar resources that I tend to share on my Facebook page more often than Instagram tends to be for me. Pictures and videos of students, puppies, and what they're working on. And then on Facebook, I tend to share other literature, book recommendations, different trainers that I really enjoy their content. And there's some really great, like, what is it, Family and Paws, I believe, and there's a few other, like Cooper and Kids. There's a whole slew of different organizations that I also share their content on my Facebook page, because there's a lot of great content for prevention of hiccups for families. Because when you have a young puppy or an adult dog or a brand new baby, there's a lot of outdated information out there, like let the puppy go smell the baby in the car seat. That's an awful idea. There's a lot of situations where it's very good intent, but what if something were to go wrong? The baby is at mouth level with the dog. So there's going to be a lot of great information for prevention of hiccups, but also for building good associations between littles and dogs and vice versa, but also understanding the limitations that your dog might have, same thing, the limitations a small human might have. So understanding skills does take time for even littles. So most littles under 4 don't really understand gentle. They don't quite understand how to use their hands. We are primate-like creatures, so we tend to love to hug and smooch and squeeze, and that's the exact opposite what most dogs prefer. So a lot of dogs, there was a study done, about 85% of dogs were showing stress signals when given hugs. Some of the dogs are more tolerant, but does not mean they like the affection in that manner. So if you ever do look to see how your dog responds to something, I'm not saying go hug a dog and hope they don't bite you. I'm not trying to push buttons for pups. But remember that a lot of times your dog might give a whale eye. They may freeze and hold their breath. They might look away. They might try to create distance. So this whole concept of having consent from both ends is really important. But also the way we meet and greet is very different than the way dogs meet and greet. So we do want to make sure that culturally we're not overwhelming them and then being surprised with how our dogs respond to us. So another thing to think about too, and not trying to scare anybody, but about 77% of dog bites happen in and around the home with friends and family, and about 50% of them are for children under the age of 5 in the face. So to prevent heartache for everybody, remember, anything with a mouth can bite, even toddlers. So I would highly recommend to prevent the rehearsal of potential hiccups by having safe zones for everybody involved. This doesn't mean that we're separating the puppy from the world. They should still be included in certain activities, but there might be situations where it'd be much safer and easier to coexist than mingling the whole time. 2, puppies require a lot of sleep, and if they're not getting enough rest because everybody's wiggling and throwing and doing things that toddlers do, most puppies are overtired, overstimulated, and therefore especially mousy. So it could be one of those situations too. Your puppy could be enjoying a chew, just like your little one might be enjoying their thing, and there could be some resource guarding potentials. It's like, guys, I dropped it. Do you want help? He's like, no, I got it. So good job, sir. Very self-sufficient. So, but if your puppy is really struggling with the dynamic, that would be something that I'd be really proactive in. We want to be proactive in our setups, not reactive to problems or failures or hiccups, because a lot of scenarios are very much so preventable. So let's say he's still rocking a gorgeous little stay. I'm just going to add a little bit of distractions. He's also multitasking because he's got his chew. And the whole point to that is I wanted him to be able to work on something while then I was adding some difficulty. Because again, teething, and he's losing a few teeth you mentioned, this is going to be important for him to sometimes have something to work on as well. So right here, I'm just going to add a little bit of, he's like, oh, that was too hard. So if, let's say, me moving out of range, no worries. I'm going to ask him for the down. Ready? Down. Yes, what a good boy. Now you're laying on your chew toy. He's like, it's fine. It feels nice. So now I'm going to, again, rock a little bit with the stay. If it's easier for him to be watching you, feel free. Set him up where he's facing you. And like I mentioned a little bit earlier for Mr. B, is he preferred to be able to see me when I was doing my semicircle. He didn't really love it if I went behind him. He felt that was a little too challenging. Nice. Oh my goodness, he's so tired. I know I mentioned it last time, but I love it when his little jowls fall over his either onto the cot or on his little legs. But he's definitely a gangly little baby right now, which is adorable. So again, I'm just going to feed once more. He had a little crumb on his leg, so I gave him that one. Now the heat just came on, so it's making some funny sounds. All my new stuff that came in, it looks so pretty now. My poor wall was looking so bare, but now it's all better again. This is gorgeous. So, but remember too, when you're practicing with your puppy at any point, you may want to have treat stations, which again are little sections of items like treats and things that he enjoys and does okay with. And you might have like a little station in the kitchen, and it could be a Tupperware container, a little Ziploc bag. It would want to be stuff that doesn't have to be refrigerated. And that way you might capture a moment where he's like relaxing, their little one's running around like a wild lady or wild woman or gentleman. And then at that point, you could be feeding him for watching the wild and then hanging out doing his own thing. So you're trying to create good associations with each other, but that they don't have to involve intimacy. And then that can be really helpful. Too, if littles ever want to play with puppies, I always recommend they're the one bringing something to the pup, not taking it away. And the other option too would be doing find it. So when my little one was much smaller, she's now 5, so she can pretty much stand. If it's a bigger puppy and she's coming to school here with me sometimes to help out, depending on if it's a school vacation, I have her go on a chair and she can be sitting or standing. And then she does find its with the pups. And then when the puppy offers a sit, she'd go, yes, and then throw the food. So find its are a great way for puppies and littles to interact without having to be nibbled on or slimy hands. I would recommend always wash hands after playing with food for pups, even if it's, man-made foods. So that way you're, again, keeping everybody safe with the lovely germs and goodies. Nice. So right here, yes. But those find its are a great option for littles as well. Oh my gosh, so tired. So we might give Mr. T a little break. He did a really nice job. I'll go ahead and give him a little jackpot here with a few extra morsels. But also too, guys, for any of the babes, along the weeks, if we, let's say, dive into some of the skills that you mentioned when you registered that you'd wanted to work on, but then you come across some other topics or things that you're struggling with, you can always feel free to email me or check in with me and let me know of other things you'd like to dive into. So, but Mr. T did a really good job. We're going to give him a little break because he's like, lady, I am winded, and bring him out for another little potty. And then we're going to rotate through some of our beauties again. What a smart man. He's doing great. We'll give him a little break.